I've lived in this little town with my girlfriend, Sarah, for nearly 3 years. It's a nice place, good neighbors for the most part. I won't say where it is, because I don't want anyone to make the same mistake I did. It hadn't bothered me until 5 months ago. My girlfriend and I were over at one of the houses on the opposite side of the street. It was a small gray house owned by a husband and wife named Jeffrey and Linda. They were nice people. A bit unusual, but nice. I feel as though a bit unusual might be an understatement. A huge understatement. Linda was extremely strange. For starters, to my knowledge at least, no one had ever seen her face. Not even Jeffrey. And no one ever found it strange that she hid it. Even I didn't think anything of it until 5 months ago. I wish I would have just left it alone. Maybe things would have gone better for me if I had. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to Jeffrey and Linda's house. We were there for a cookout that Jeffrey had invited us to. The whole neighborhood was going, and Jeffrey always cooked good food, so Sarah and I decided to give it a go. Today's food wasn't as good as Jeffrey's food normally is, but the mood of the cookout probably didn't help matters. Linda and Jeffrey had gotten into a bit of a quarrel. One of the other neighbor's kids tripped Jeffrey as he was walking the burgers over to the picnic table, and Jeffrey nearly moved Linda's hair out of her face. She had a fit. That's what made me think about it. Why was she that angry about her face nearly being shown? It didn't make sense to me, so I did some digging. I should have just kept to myself, but I didn't. I'm so stupid. No matter how deep into Linda's past I looked, she hadn't ever shown her face. I looked through school photos, Facebook posts, everything, and her face never showed up. If I'm being completely honest, I became mildly obsessed with finding it. Sarah thought I was going crazy, but agreed that Linda hiding her face was strange. Since my extensive, stalking didn't yield any results, I decided to catch a glimpse by myself. I began planning. I hid my plans from Sarah because I thought she'd be angry, but whenever she wasn't in the same room, I thought as long and hard as I could about how I was going to see Linda's face. My plan ended up becoming something like this. 1. Invite Jeffrey and Linda over for dinner one night. 2. While we're eating, accidentally splash Linda with water. 3. Clean the table, and while I'm cleaning, look through her hair at her face. It didn't happen that way. The plan started off well. Sarah was a little confused as to why I invited them over, but I just told her it was repayment for them always cooking for us. I served the food just like I had wanted to. We had chicken and mashed potatoes with green beans on the side. That had been the last thing that had gone to plan. Linda didn't touch the food. She didn't move the whole time. Her chin-length black hair stayed in the exact same spot the whole time. But somehow, the food was being eaten. Every time I looked away and looked back, bits of the food would be missing. No one else seemed to notice that she stayed in the exact same position the whole time. Not a single thing about her changed. It was beginning to eat at me. I could feel the time for me to enact the rest of my plan approaching. But that's not how it went. As soon as I grabbed my cup, something felt off. I felt like I was caught, but there was no possible way for her to have known what I was doing. Or at least, there shouldn't have been. Everything went dead silent, and I looked over at Linda with a sense of dread. This felt far bigger now than I had initially thought. To my shock, Linda's face was visible. Well, not really, because there was nothing there. I don't know how to describe it. It was all dark, but not black. It was like there was a hole in reality where her head should have been. There was just nothing. I don't scare easily, and I certainly don't scream, but I screamed then. It was terrifying. I shut my eyes as tight as I could and launched myself off of my chair, trying to just get away from whatever I'd just seen. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely not human. I felt my back slam against the wall, and then I heard a sound again. It was a voice, but not one I'd ever heard before. It was high-pitched and low-pitched at the same time. I let my eyes open again, but I was ready to shut them again if I needed to. I looked at Linda. It was easy to figure out it was hers, because she was the only person at the table who was moving. Sarah and Jeffrey were seemingly frozen. She, or it said, "No one else has made it this far. I congratulate you, but this will be the final success of your life." I wanted to ask her what she meant by no one else, but my voice was stuck in my throat. "Do you have any final words, Zachary?" All I wanted to do was say goodbye to Sarah, but I couldn't. I couldn't figure out how to speak. That was what made me decide I had to survive. I had to get out of this, for Sarah. I had a life I wanted to live with her before I died, and I wasn't about to let this thing stop that before it really started. So I reached my arms out towards the knife block. I pulled out the biggest knife out of the group and brought it over to me. Then, I finally found my voice. "Yeah, but you won't be around to hear them." I charged at her with the knife and lodged it into where her heart should have been. Black goo shot from the space around the knife. She let out a shriek and began to shrivel up. I slammed my eyes shut, not wanting to get whatever that goo was in them. I ripped the knife out and put it in another spot, just for safe measure. That's when I heard Sarah's voice. She yelled my name twice before I realized what was happening. I felt something warm on my right cheek. Then I realized my head was on my plate. I lifted it and wiped my face. Mashed potatoes came off my fingers, which were also slightly stained black. I looked at Sarah, then Linda. I nearly jumped out of my chair that I somehow ended back up in when I saw her hair was out of the way of her face. I calmed down a bit when I saw her face was actually there. Then I became confused. I looked back at Sarah, but she acted like everything was normal. I looked down at my hands. They were still stained black, so I knew it definitely happened. The rest of the night went well, aside from my utter confusion over what had gone down. My mental state declined after that night. I went to countless therapists, but none of them helped. They all told me the same thing. I made the whole thing up in my head because I have some sort of issue with Linda. I'm recording this because I'm going crazy trying to figure out how it happened. I need to share my story with someone else, someone who might believe me.